Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sathology Debunking Mythology. And today we are Sat means truth, Logos means a study or science, Sathology means a science of truth, study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means a study of myth. Myth means a fake lie, imagination, or science of myth. So today we have a very special guest, the 12th in line princess of erstwhile state of the Travancore. The princely states were abolished in India, but the traditions still stand. So the title is still there, but cannot be used in an official place. But today we are touching a very important topic, that we pride ourselves on dharma. But what happens to our dharma in emergency situations, or how we should take lessons from the past so that we can actually practice what we are proud of. So, without delay, let us welcome Srimati Lakshmi by Nalapad.
Thank you, Aditya. Thank you for having me again on your show. Namaste.
Akka, I have to ask you one very important question. And you write beautiful articles, and you have sometimes you touch all the time you touch the essence. So we all know that dharma doesn't mean just puja pat, doing worshipping in the temple. Dharma means our karma defines our dharma. It's not the dharma defines our karma, it's the karma which defines the dharma. So is that principle properly understood by people according to you?
Aditya, let's first take the simple meaning of the word dharma. Okay? Dhrita dharayati. That is dharma. That is the meaning of dharma. That is something which stays. Okay? Let's take a small diversion. Let's go to Buddhism. In Buddhism, dharma is dharma, Buddha, and Sangha. The right way of living, Buddha, who is the exponent of that, and the Sangha, which is the group of people who do dharma. In the Sanatan context, let us take the simplest one. There are so many layers of it now, but let's go down. Let's only start from the basics, because if we lose the basics, if we forget what the ancients have meant or what they taught us, if we lose touch with that, then we're wandering around without a foundation. So in the Sanatana context, dharma means the right way of living. There are two kinds of dharmas. One is individual dharma, that is a personal dharma for a person, and the other is the dharma for a person who is living in society. See, there are 4 stages to an Indian, to a Sanatan dharma person's life. One is when you are a student, brahmachari. That is when, from the time you sort of graduate. Then it is when you're a householder, grihasti. When you're a grihasti, you do everything that is worldly. Okay? You do business, you do agriculture, whatever it is, you do a profession, you get married, you produce children, and you enjoy the fruits of all that. And after a certain age, you become vanaprastha, or you withdraw. You've had enough of life, worldly life. You've had enough. It's not, see, it is very, very important that Swamijis, okay, of any mutt or priests or any holy men who are supposed to renounce the world, it is very important that they do not do it when they are young, because they do not know what life is all about. So you are giving up something which you do not know. So then what happens is, later on you become a renunciate. And then I find a lot of people, they go into, narcotics, women, rampant sex, because they have not worked out this virus, if I may say that. Or it's not even a virus, it is experience out of their system. So they've suppressed it. When they suppress it, it pops up when your defenses are very, very low, much like the coronavirus. That is one thing. The second thing is there is a dharma for the individual. Every religion says knowing God is the height of human life. Our belief says that you get a human life only after 84 lakh other births. And it is in the human birth that we are able to work towards knowing God. Because the same God is in you. The same God who created you is in you. The same God who created the whole universe is in everybody. But to know, to identify that you are part of that great, I would say bliss, energy. I mean, God can only be positive. It is very sad that many gods are being used in a very negative sense, but that's another story. Now, a person's personal dharma is when you are concentrated. You're just concentrating on knowing God yourself. So what you do, you read, you do, like you said, you do homas, pujas, you recitate the name of God, and then slowly, because you're not interested in anything else, so you're moving away from society. You go and sit in a corner. You can sit in a corner of your house also. It does not matter, but you are disconnecting from the world. That is your personal dharma. Now, this is a very, very important thing for a person who is connected to the world, who is not a renunciate. There is a dharma which includes the first person's dharma. It also includes a very, very, very important point, and that is the welfare of society. It is when you do maximum good to your fellow human beings, to the nature around you, to the earth around you, that you become a true follower of dharma. There is, according to me personally, of course, there is always benefit in reciting God's name, whichever be the God. There is always plus to be, it is always a plus to recite God's name, doubtless. But to augment to that, let us say I'm sitting, out of 24 hours, I'm sitting and reciting God's name for 3 hours per day. Then I'm sleeping for some time. And then I come and do what is horrible for human beings. All the good that I have done by those 3 hours of recitation will just disappear. And please remember, Aditya, it is always easier to do bad than to do good. Let's say I want to build a house. It takes me something close to 1 year to build it the way it should be. 45 days. You put the foundation, you wet it for 45 days. You put the next step, you wet it again for 45 days. It takes about a year for the whole thing to be done. Now to pull that house down, all I need is a JCB. Tack. 5 hours, 3 hours. My effort of 1 year is gone. Dharma, without, at least if you do not help people, do not please harm them. This is my take on the personal and the general dharma. And this is what is there in all texts, all old texts, which we are unfortunately losing our touch with them. Aditya, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, I can hear you. Yes. No, very nice point you made about Swadharma and the personal. Because see, the thing is, people follow in a personal dharma. If they follow more, then they actually going to help the society, because if each one follows it, then the whole society also follows it. But also there is a dharma for people, because dharma has different meanings. One is Swadharma, another is dharma for the country, is a dharma for the battle. Everywhere dharma has a different definition. In the personal one, swadhyaya is the main thing where you engage in some personal practices. So, so when the people are in positions or in power, then their dharma changes, because their dharma, like as an occupational duty, is different than a swadharma. So they can be good people swadharma, but their actions in the power, in the position, is different. What do you have to say on that? Like, for example, Sri Ram was a prince. His dharma was to follow his father. And when Bharat became the king after Dashrath, then Bharat's responsibility for the state were different than what is personal Swadharma. Personal Swadharma, he was just as a caretaker king, but in his and also he was maintaining his sadhana outside the city. But when he was the king, his dharma was different. He was engaged in working for the state. So the dharma changed over there. So what do you have to say on that?
Actually, if you look at Ramayana,
Yeah.
Bharat is a person who has done something which is near to impossible. Okay. He, as a brother, personally, took Ram's Paduka, put it on his head, brought it back to Nandigram, if I'm not mistaken, put it on the throne, and said, my mother Kaikeyi had asked Dasharatha to put me, Bharat, as the king of Ayodhya. However, I, as Bharat, refused to do that. And my job is to rule Ayodhya. In trust, he actually held Ayodhya in trust for his elder brother, Sri Rama. And okay, that was his personal dharma. And he looked after Ayodhya beautifully as a king. That was his dharma as a regent. Regent for lack of better word, because he was ruling in the name of Ram, for Ram. And there was no conflict. There was no conflict. The conflict in this situation would have risen, Aditya, if at any point in the 14 years of Vanvas of Sri Rama, Ayodhya, but this thought had crossed Bharat's mind. What if, see, this is due to me. This is what my father has given me. My father has made me king of Ayodhya to keep Dasharatha's word to Kaikeyi. So that's a fact. It's not Bharat is stealing anything from Ram. Bharat is just taking what is his due. But then what makes Bharat so different from anybody is that he doesn't think of himself. How would it be if I sat on the throne? How wonderful, how nice it is. Of course, it's nice to be, and you know how it is. You've seen this is true of every place on earth. Anybody who's in power, you will have a coterie around him or her singing praises, saying that you're greater than God. That happens everywhere. It is part of the psyche of power. But Bharat never opted for that. Bharat was so convinced about what he should do as a younger brother, as a person. Okay, he never wanted Ayodhya. So that was his personal dharma. His professional dharma, or dharma as an emperor or king, was to take care of Ayodhya for Ram, which he did. And see how beautifully that both the dharmas are melding. And this is because Bharat's ambition to stick to his personal dharma was greater than his ambition for political power. I hope that answers your question.
No, in the case of Bharat, we see that Bharat actually came to meet Sri Ram in Kishkinda, based on my last book, One Arrow, One Kill, and you wrote a beautiful foreword for that.
Thank you.
In that instance, Bharat asks Sri Ram that what is his orders? What are his orders? And again he comes down. So first time he meets in Chitrakoot. And the second time, when Sri Ram is punishing Virad. Now Virad was a Rakshas, and Bhagwan Ram had to punish. Sri Ram says a very important thing. He says, I belong to Ikshwaku Vansh, and of which Bharat is the king of the entire planet. He doesn't say Ayodhya. He says Bharat is the king of entire planet. And on that authority, sorry, he tells Wali, not to Virad. He tells, on that authority, I have the right to punish anyone under the orders of Bharat. So even though Sri Ram was the elder brother, but he had respect for the position of authority over there. And he said, on the orders of Bharat, it is my responsibility to protect dharma in anywhere I go. So on that basis, I have the right to punish you because you kidnapped somebody else's wife. And so here Sri Ram puts a very great example on following dharma, where wherever there is adharma, it is our duty to talk about it. And it is our duty to protect it at any case. In that case, the Raj Dharma, now Ram is definitely in a different position than most of us. But the principle we can use, that whenever we see injustice, we see wherever it is we have a right to speak for it. Because if we don't speak for it, then the dharma of our dharma as well as the general cause of dharma becomes weak. So what do you have to add on that?
See, if you take Ramayana, if you take Rama, how he carries out his personal dharma. If you take Lakshman, how he carries out his personal dharma by following Ram and Sita. As basically he's going as a guardian. There is no need for Lakshmana to go. There is no need for Bharata to accept, Rama's, or his now Kaikeyi and Kausalya and all of them said, bring Rama back. There is no need for him to accept that. The three brothers, that is Rama, Lakshmana, and Bharata, they come out as gleaming examples of personal dharma. Really, you really don't know who's better. It's like each one is so good. And as far as Raksha is concerned, see, there is this. Unfortunately, because we are so much out of touch with our ancient texts, we say that ahimsa is good. Ahimsa is, of course, good. But please keep in mind that ahimsa is good only till your subjects or those who are dependent on you are safe. If those who are dependent on you are attacked, it is not your job to sit there with your arms, crossed and say, see, I am a peaceful person. If you are a peaceful person, do not be the head of the family. Do not be the head of a village. Do not be the head of a panchayat. You see, when you do not be the head of an organization, a corporate, because you have actually what happens. Take dharma, Aditya. You have dharma, the concepts of dharma, right? You also have the people who have to carry out the dharma. Okay. And if there is no connection between the ideas of dharma and the people who have to carry it, dharma will sound like a very nice, it sounds very good on a talk, but it does not really help anyone. So, and you cannot have quote unquote philosophies and ideas which are removed from human nature. You have to keep in mind that those who are supposed to carry out these wonderful theories are human beings. You have to factor in a normal human being's reaction to a lot of things. Let me give you a simple example. Okay, let's say I drop dead. I would definitely like whatever my books, okay, whatever little wealth I have, I would like it to go to somebody who I have connections with, somebody I'm fond of. I would not like the government to come and take it over. Okay. Is this being selfish? I do not know, but that is how I am. Now, when somebody you love or somebody you are responsible for, okay, you can have responsibility without attachment. It is slightly harsher, less practical, may not work, but still it is possible, right? Now, if you have that, you, by being the head, you are responsible. And that is your dharma. See, a general in the army, it is his dharma to kill people who are encroaching. I am not saying as the head of any, any company go into a hostile takeover. No. What I am saying is, when you are threatened, not reacting is, according to me, a dharma. And see, Aditya, there is also one more thing which really saddens me, okay, because we become catchphrase people, okay, instant nirvana. There is one sentence which I hear quoted left, right, center by all kinds of people across political parties, okay, and this is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It sounds so good. It is like all of us are one. Do you know the source of that? The source of that is not the Vedas or Ramayana or Mahabharata or anything of that. The source of that is a collection of stories called Hitopadesha. Okay, I came across this. I was digging, because Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, it's a statement which we make and it sort of hangs in the air. There's nothing before it. There is nothing after it. We also say Vinashakale Viparita Buddhi, which is what, but that has a long shloka before it. Asambhavyam Hiranyamrigam, where Rama says that Maricha is a golden deer. I'm going to catch him, and Rama could not at that moment sort of remember. Remember is the right word, that golden deers don't exist. So it is Vinashakale Viparita Buddhi. When times are bad, your thinking becomes all right. Now, in Hitopadesha, there is a mouse called Hiranyaka. Hiranyaka says the story, okay, of a jackal called Kshudra Buddhi, okay, who wants to eat a deer called Chitranga. Chitranga's got a friend called Subuddhi. He's a crow. And the jackal, Kshudra Buddhi, tells the deer, oh, we are all one. Take me to your house. Take me to where you live in the forest. Because the jackal knows that the deer is very fast. He cannot catch him in normal means. This crow, Subuddhi, wants the deer and says, don't take him in. But the sentence which Kshudra Buddhi tells this deer is, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we are all one. When I read that, I actually sat there and my God, I was like, oh my God, what idiots all of us are.
Actually,
anybody
I'll quote the whole shloka for you. I am Bandhur and I am Neti Ganana Lagu Chetasam. Udara Charitanam tu Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Yes.
So it is said that this is my friend, that is not, is the calculation of a small-minded person. So this applies to even those people who are not from the Vedic system.
Yes.
And for the magnanimous, the whole world is one family. Now, when somebody is not that magnanimous, then why will you use that term? Because
now I want to ask you one thing. Would you be magnanimous enough to be eaten by a jackal?
Exactly. Like, I'm not going to embrace a live tiger or a snake. Yesterday there was a snake in my house, and I'm not going to hold it by hand. I'm going to take care of proper precautions just so that snake goes away.
Exactly. I love snakes.
So the point is that yes, you are absolutely right. Wrong narratives being spread. Another one is, we have never attacked anyone. Now, again, thing is, the Mahabharata and Ramayana says that to protect the weak, the strong people have to protect them through their whatever powers they have. Otherwise, the difference between the strong and the weak is not there. If both do not act, one cannot act, one is not willing to act because of some fake controls. So dharma is a platform of actually releasing somebody from all fears and all kinds of inhibitions. The dharma is not a platform. Dharma doesn't make us weak. And using these kind of words and just quoting half shloka, not the full shloka also. So our philosophy is not Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Our philosophy is the magnanimous or the big-hearted people have philosophy is that the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. But the point is that it also means another thing is that do we consider it as a big heart, because the humility can only be shown by a strong person. Humility cannot be, because the weak is always humble, because situation they are in, like people who are less educated. Sometimes when I am in front of many educated people like yourself and Dr. Nalapat and other people, I have to stay quiet because they have a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, and I have to just listen. So I cannot be like claiming too many that I'm very knowledgeable, because others are more knowledgeable than us. So automatically I'm humble. But if I'm in front of my students and where I'm teaching them, there I have some authority over there, but then I have to act. And so at that point, when I show humility, that yes, I'm listening, then that is more respected, because they know that this person knows, but he is actually coming down to our level and talking. Now, in the dharma also, same thing applies. Like when you say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, when you are magnanimous or when you're powerful, that is the point to follow dharma. Then it is the requirement to follow dharma. What do you have to say? Because when you highlighted some certain situations in Indian history where people are in position of power and then they do not act, then it is the biggest disservice to dharma. What do you have to say on that?
Aditya, you spoke about Ramayana and Mahabharata, right?
Yeah.
You must also remember that both those wars came as the very last option.
Last resort. That's right.
Sri Rama did not say, okay, you took away my wife, now I'm going to come and flatten you. Same thing with Mahabharata. And Mahabharata, they sent no less negotiator, for lack of a better word, than Sri Krishna. And Sri Krishna, he keeps on lowering his demands. Finally, when he sees that there is no option, they say, okay, fine, this is war, which is the right thing to do. When you jump into war, any action without thought is, and especially a thought, an action as destructive, because believe me, war is destructive all around. There is nothing which is not free of harm and pain in any war. The earth, nature, human beings, resources, economy, everything is affected in a negative way. So before you take such a huge action, you have to think and rethink and rethink before you actually decide to take an action. But once you decide to take an action, then don't then don't say, oh, maybe I should fight, maybe I shouldn't fight. No, then you fight. Once you've decided to fight, you fight, whatever be the outcome. That is one thing. Second thing is, you see, there's always this thought, learning, action. Now, when you really look at any subject, mind you, Aditya, any subject, if you are a true student of any subject, you will realize that you are nothing but a grain of sand in this huge beach. Knowledge is endless. Anybody who claims he is an authority on knowledge is either a liar or a fool or both. The maximum you can say, the maximum pat on the back you can give yourself is, okay, this is something that I'm familiar with. Just familiar with. You were so right when you said that as a teacher, when you are in a teacher-student relationship, there's a there's a protocol which definitely puts the teacher on top. I don't know if kids nowadays like it, but it is. I mean, that's why it is because you have something to teach that they are sitting there and listening to you, right? If they knew better than you, they would just walk out of class. They won't need you. So, according to me, and for me, a teacher or a guru is, equal to God, because he or she is the person who removes ignorance from your mind. So when you are a teacher and and you come down to their level, you are respecting three things. One, first, according to me, you are respecting that knowledge. Your first naman is to that knowledge which you have and you're handing over to the students. Second thing is you are respecting those students who are sitting there, eager for knowledge. You see, they have a freshness about them which you don't have because you're a teacher. You've been through that, but for them, it is such a joy. It is such a joy to watch kids learn something for the first time, because I find it keeps me young, okay? Because they're like, oh, you can see that realization dawn in their eyes. It's actually like lighting a lamp. So you're respecting your students. And thirdly, most importantly, you are respecting yourself, because you are not being a cheap, Mr. Know-it-all. I know everything. You see, not even the Encyclopedia Britannica or whatever it is. I mean, I don't think Wikipedia is the equivalent of that, but whatever the internet equivalent of it can claim anything like that. And when you have respect for these three, you will naturally be humble, because you will know, if you know X, knowledge is X raised to X raised to X raised to X at least. And then how can you be proud? How can you be proud? So actually, and this quality of humility is very necessary for anybody who is, let's say a chaprasi. Let's take a bank. The chaprasi, the clerk, the officer, the manager. I'm making it very, very simplistic. It is the job of the manager to be polite to all three of them. The officer to two of them. The clerk to the peon. And all of them should be polite to the customers. If that is the organization, if that is a family, you know what? Why do kids rebel? Kids rebel because adults don't even give a hearing for them. What the kids are feeling, the kids are feeling, what they're feeling is genuine. It's very genuine. For them, it's real. So the Tau or the grandfather or the matriarch or the mother or the whoever is, the elder brother, whoever is in heads the family, when they seem to disrespect the youngsters, it's a problem. And believe me, Aditya, there is such a lot of things which can be discussed, spoken about, and resolved. There is one thing which is hurting me so much. This is all around the world, okay? I, for one, was not asked whether I should be born in such and such a family, to such and such a parents, such and such a caste, such and such a religion, such and such an area. I had nothing to do with that, okay? It is not my fault. It is not my capability. Okay. When this is the situation, how can I act superior to anyone? Anyone. Because all of us have been born by chance. Okay. The chance is decided not by me, not by my family, not by you, not by your family, your friends, not your nation, nothing. So what are we so not proud? What are we so conceited about? I can understand if, like you apply for a university, you tick all the right boxes and then, okay, fine, this berth is handed over to you. Now, what is happening is that it is foolishness which is kept as supreme. Somebody feels superior and he has the gumption to say that, oh, I am the biggest, me Tarzan, bum, tum, 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 and everybody falls in line. The king is there are two words in Sanskrit. One is Praja Kshema Talparan, which means the ruler who is happy about the comfort and the joy of his people. The other is Praja Kshemaika Niratan, which means a king who is only happy with the welfare of his people. Now, there is one more thing which is happening. Take the old Hindu tenets. It is Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Okay? Dhanam, Dhanyam, Bahuputra Labham, Shata, Samvalsaram, Dirghamayu, Pramoshi. Dhanam, wealth was, making money was legal. It was something which you look forward to. The Rig Veda, the entire Veda tells you, okay, may you be blessed with this. Now what is happening is, it is not, we've lost touch with that. We've lost touch with what the ancients have said. Dhanam, oh no, we are sacrificing people. We don't want dhanam. So then what happens? Legal money making is out. Human beings are still human beings. Illegal money making slips in. Because again, human beings are human beings. And this entire, this glorification of Tyagam doesn't make sense. Tyagam means when you give up something better for the sake of something less good. Now, unless you are an idiot, why should you do that? See, if you give something, okay, I have something wonderful, I'm giving it to somebody, that is dhanam, that is not tyagam. I have decided that I have this wonderful thing, but I don't want it, so I'm going to give it to somebody. Or even if I want it, okay, I like it, but I think somebody else deserves it more. Or I am doing it, okay, I'm giving this so that I will get punya, positive dharma in my life. That is different. But when you say tyagam, it is so negative. Sanatana Dharma, which the ancients, and that is one thing which I've never forgotten, Aditya, what you said about Krishna being the only person who looked like God. One of your friends told you. It is true. It has to be positive. Instead of which we are sacrifice, give up, tyag karo, be sad. And somehow, when that is put as the banner headline of Sanatana Dharma, why should anybody want to come and be a Sanatana Dharmist?
That was spoken by a German tourist to India, to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur in Bengal.
Yes.
So
yes.
And
I love that gentleman. Okay, sight unseen, I love that gentleman because he has caught on to the essence of Sanatana Dharma, which unfortunately we seem to be missing.
Yeah, he said that everybody is doing some work, only Krishna is playing the flute.
Yeah, he's having fun. If you are a god, okay, if you are a god, you're not supposed to labor. And I am telling you one thing, we have so many out of the 33 crore gods. We very, very interesting people, okay. Unfortunately, some of them are getting lost. Everybody knows of Shabarimala, Ayyappa of Shabarimala. Everybody knows that, okay. Who knows about Revanta in Shabarimala, youngest son of Surya? Nobody knows. He's become relegated to a minor god in Hinduism. Because it's like your brain. You don't use the god becomes rusty.
The Sanatana Dharma plays importance to all Kula Devata. And I think we have to, and every region of the world is governed by a Kuladevta, every region.
Of course.
So there is not a single part of earth or ocean is left without a controller. So just like when we manage our countries, we divide in districts and prefectures or whatever you call them, different parts of the world. But every part of the country has a Kuladevta, a world, not just India. So even the Kuladevta in Ramayana, the Kuladevta of Sindhu Sagar is also mentioned there. And Kuladevta of today's Somagiri is the
Ah,
mountains towards the west of Pakistan, just towards the west,
ah,
towards the ocean.
okay.
There is a Kuldevta for that also.
Who's the if you remember offhand, who's the Sindhu sees Kuldevta?
Sindhu Dev.
Ah,
So that
Sindhu
is a
Dev.
Sindhu Dev. That's why the name Sindhu
Okay.
Sagar is there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So he's the Kuldevta, and also Shiva Mandir is in every part of the world. People
Yes.
recognize it or not recognize it because he's
Yes.
Mahadev. He's the husband of Parvati, who is the controller of the whole world. He's
I
Durga.
agree with you. I cannot agree with you more. Parvati is the controller of the world, and I love her.
So she's the material protector of the whole planet. So any part where the mother is worshipped, that is actually worship of Parvati, wherever, because she's the actual Mahadev, and she are the material progenitors of this world. Without that, the population won't come. And so there is a Prajapatis also, but he's the main cause, masculine and feminine. So
Yes.
the point which I'm saying, it is all pervading, but somehow people like people from India who have been given the authority to propagate this knowledge, we are engaging in everything else but not propagating it, which is the need of the world. See, I tell all the Americans all the time also, most of the Americans, they love India not because of the call centers and the IT industry and sending space missions to the moon or Mars. Majority of Americans in the West, I'm talking, India has a huge following in South America, huge following in Europe, and all most of the rich families of America have either Shiva or Krishna in their house. Most of them, majority of them.
Mm.
The reason I'm saying is the biggest attraction of India is its culture of Sanatan Dharma, not everything else. Anything else is relevant for today, relative for today. But people don't come to India. Why will the Melinda Gates roam on the streets of Ayodhya or Bihar when she has so much wealth in USA? The reason is there's a culture of Ganga, culture around the Ganga banks. There's a culture in Ayodhya, Vrindavan, and there are two Angrej Mandir in Vrindavan. The two Angrej Mandir where the Western people are there. Rishikesh, if you go, you'll find more Americans on the. I have met more prominent Americans roaming on the street like a ordinary people in Rishikesh than in America, because America is very difficult to reach people. It's so far. Places are so far. So the point which I'm saying is that we have the responsibility to spread the ideals to everyone, because Sanatan Dharma is not just for people who are born in India. Sanatan Dharma is for everyone else also. It's not is a culture of the soul, and that part we are missing. Like you explained it so beautifully, and that part we are missing. That instead of judging others, we must try to absorb others and give them knowledge, because the knowledge liberates. Everything else binds. And so far they have been giving wrong knowledge. They have been giving very communal knowledge, but now we Sanatan Dharma breaks all communal knowledges, because it is the platform of the soul and the most commonsensical platform. Who is going to oppose compassion? Who's going to oppose kindness? Who is going to oppose respect to the nature? Only a person who is crazy is going to oppose that. So we are missing the point here, where we as a society, it's our work to tell others about us, and before speaking, research it. Don't just speak. Just like a attorney goes to a court, attorney he references past judgments and says this is due to this and this and this, so this is how they make the logical arguments. But we do not quote Vyasadeva, we don't quote Narada, we don't quote Valmiki, and if we don't quote them, where is the reference? So because the references makes your argument stronger. Like just now we discussed that how Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the whole shloka I read for you, where Vasudhaiva, that is a so we are just quoting half and we don't know where it came from. Like Dharma Rakshati Rakshita, who said it? Nobody knows. Actually, Draupadi says it to Yudhishthir.
Yes.
That's the shloka. And
Yes.
Draupadi reminds him that how it has to be. And Draupadi was not a uneducated lady. She was very well versed in Shastra. And when he's talking just to have an argument with Yudhishthir, you need some basis. Otherwise, you cannot argue with him. He is
True.
Dharmaraj. So and Yudhishthir debunks her, proves her wrong and gives us the right sources, but respectfully. He talks to her but to just stand in front of Yudhishthir and talk about dharma is a big thing. So big that Vyasdev has to write that conversation down in Mahabharata.
Yes. Actually, Aditya, you're the fourth person who has heard of this Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam in its right context. Okay. 59 years of age I am, and you're the fourth person. I was so delighted to hear you quote the whole thing. Okay. Because everybody is like, no. And you know what the sad thing is? They jump down my throat and say, no, you're wrong. So I'm like, okay, I'm wrong. Because you see, I'm like, okay, it's easier. I don't want to argue with people who are dumb and who are not open.
The thing is, when you talk to again in the Hitopadeshad, you don't talk to the Murk or Muda because
yes.
Again, I'm quoting Hitopadeshad. I'm not saying from my side.
Yes, I know.
So it's.
I know. See, Hitopadesh is education. It's like taking medicine in a sweet. Yeah. Because there's such a lot of things to learn from that, but it is put across in such a nice way. You see, so that you swallow it, you learn, but you're not. It's not a chore. It's not a pain. You're enjoying it. And the most successful teacher is one who can teach with fun.
That's one of the reasons I started writing books. I said I cannot talk everywhere and I cannot put in a book so that people, if they want to read it, they can read it. And I wrote in a simple English language for Americans, not for others.
Yes.
For Americans need that, but the American English is much more simpler than Indian English or British English. And the words are far more. Great discussion, Lakshmi ji and Akka. Great discussion, Akka. And now we are going to, and this discussion shows that it is important for us to represent what we practice properly and involve as many people from everywhere else with us. There's no more time because Sanatana Dharma is the only platform of unity. Rest everything else is a platform of divisiveness. So here, if we can invite people, and we have so many students from all kinds of backgrounds, and they value what we are saying. So thank you, Akka. This is a wonderful conversation, and we will do more such sessions for educating people. Do you want to add anything in the end?
Yes, I would like to add just this. You very correctly said that Sanatana Dharma is compassionate, it is helpful, it is kind, it is knowledgeable. I would, with folded hands, beg every practitioner of Sanatana Dharma to concentrate on that which is spiritual, and let us not descend to a religion where laws are said from outside, which is anti-people. Let us follow our dharma, which says help everybody, not the swadharma of a person who's sitting in a corner. They are not going to watch this show. But let us help everyone as far as we can in our own capacity. And let whoever God you pray to, I pray to Ma, let that God help us in that. Thank you so much, Aditya. Namaste.
Namaste, and do watch it on YouTube. Also comment on it, do share it. And this is the kind of discussion and dialogue we need to initiate with us, all of us. And thank you for all the American friends who watched it, and do comment on it and share it with your friends. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.